Alrighty, here we are. We are once again continuing with MSKain's Final Fantasy VI Speedrun, Kappa percent. As a reminder, Kappa percent is Final Fantasy VI 100% glitchless, but I have certain things that make it a little different. Specifically, I've hacked the game so that, as you can see, I have some ridiculous items that I've given myself. And also, I've done this in a lot of reasons, and if you want to know more about that, you should go back and watch my other videos if you haven't already. We're continuing on. We're right before the floating continent, and we have to see the floating continent scene here for a second before we can do anything more. As Gestal and Kefka are going to enter the sealed cave. Even Gestal doesn't have much patience for Kefka's laughter.
Come quickly!
So the floating continent's going to float up and immediately float over G-Door for some reason. Because they enter the cave. We're not sure why it suddenly decides to turn into Secret of Mana again with the floating continent, but it does, so whatever. So we're going to go find the floating continent. But first we're going to use a trick to get Senshi equipped because we want her in the party. These are the three that I really want to bring: Terra, Locke, and Celes, because Locke has Ultima already, which you know if you've been watching so far. I learned it from the Paladin Shield since he was involved in so many battles. Now I need Terra and Celes to finish learning it so that I can make the second half of the game go very smoothly. So I'm going to be fighting on the floating continent. Now, on the floating continent, you can pick up Shadow. And if you've also been watching, you might remember that I gave Shadow the Moogle Charm so that all enemies are scared of Shadow and run away from him. Unfortunately, I've mentioned before as well that there are certain points in the game where it automatically unequips characters, and it actually unequips Shadow right at the end of the Thamasa scene there. It was the last thing that happened before we leave Thamasa, so all his equipment is in our inventory now. And since he can't equip the Moogle Charm normally, I can't put it back on him, so when I first started rooting this and came up with this idea, I was hoping that it would stay on him and I'd be able to pick him back up here and make it through the floating continent without any encounters, but that doesn't work. I could go pick up Mog and equip it on Mog and run through the floating continent without encounters, but that would be a large waste of time. I'd actually end up losing time, and I don't want to do that, so I just figured it's better to fight the battles because I need magic points and everything anyway. Now, by equipping 4 characters, I can end the party. Since I need 3 to go to the floating continent, it will fail to take me to the floating continent and will instead allow me to just start playing with my party right here so that I can get them all set up for the encounter. I'm going to give them as much experience as possible since I'm fighting these battles anyway to get magic points. And then I'm going to, just be fighting all these battles. So, one thing I forgot was that. Oh well. Minor thing. So first we have to deal with the Imperial Air Force, and so Locke is just going to face roll everything with Ultima. We're going to get a lot of pincer attacks here, so that's kind of unfortunate, but well. They're going to give us a decent amount of XP when we have to get it, so we'll be gaining that as well as the magic points that we need. Now I gave Ultima Paladin Shields to everyone so they could learn Ultima, so that's because it's the most powerful attack in the game, and combined with the Economizer allows you to fairly easily deal with the rest of the game. Interestingly, Ultima doesn't seem to work with magic power because I have an absurd amount of magic power. It instead works with just based on level, I believe. So, as I gain more levels, it'll do more damage. But still, even at this point, it does more than enough damage to deal with anything in the game, pretty much. If I need additional firepower, I have a few rods that I bought that I can use. And I may use a couple of those later on. Now, this is actually the reason why I've been using these characters so much, is not so much because of the Illumina, which I showed off so much early on, but it's actually because these 3 characters are the 3 that have to be in your party among the most, so I might as well make use of them and give them the opportunity to learn Ultima. And Edgar is 4th in line. You can bring him along most of the time. There are only a few points where you can't, so I went ahead and had him along as often as I could so that he could learn, get decently close to learning Ultima as well. And I'm just learning a few other spells so that I have a few to draw on. Because occasionally you do need some other things. Not really attack spells so much, I shouldn't be worrying about those, but curing stuff is sometimes useful if I happen to be taking a bit of damage, which I might very well at the end games. Also good to have some other abilities equipped sometimes for backup. But since I've used all those characters now, with the magic points and stuff I'll be getting on the floating continent, I'll be able to handle most of the rest of the game very easily. Not that anything up to this point has been hard, hence why it's Kappa %. This really is, by now, if you were, kind of thinking that it wasn't so bad before, by now, with me using Ultima, you've got to understand that this is a totally non-serious, completely casual speedrun. Again, I'm doing this just for entertainment to show things off, because you'll never see Ultima in a normal speedrun. It's even hard to get in casual play. And kind of trivializes things, but it's kind of neat. I really, it's fun having Ultima. I like to win other ways as well. My favorite is actually with Genji Glove Offering, because I love to see somebody with that and the Atma weapon at high hit points. You're able to do 4 attacks of 9999 plus another, couple thousand for whatever powerful alternate sword you're using. But in the speed run, nothing makes it faster than making the battles really trivial, so that's kind of what I'm doing. And so it's, it's just something to do. I've been messing up a lot because of the fact that I'm trying it desperately. Even my last couple practice runs I've been doing, I did a lot better than I've been doing here. So I've kind of messed up a little bit. I'm planning to do another run of this in the future that's going to be on any... I'm going to go ahead and do on any percent and skip a bunch of stuff. But then I'm going to... but I'll be doing the same run on any percent, so I'll skip a bunch of things. There we go. So I'm skipping a lot of unnecessary stuff at that point and going in with a somewhat minimal party. I'll still have a different party than I will in than you would in a normal any percent glitchless. But and then after that, I'll probably try and do a segment if Thunder Rods are very powerful too. See, it's not just Ultima. Not yet. It'll probably go a little bit better than a standard. After that, I'll try and do a standard single segment. Run of this game. Also looking to do some Final Fantasy IV in the future. Other than that, I'm not sure quite what I'll do. I'll probably look to actually upgrading to some genuine good recording software. I might set up a Twitch stream if I actually get a few viewers and enough people interested. I don't know if that'll really happen, but it's something that'd be kind of nice to do. But I'd like to do some speedruns of a few other things, maybe some rare video games that a lot of people don't see, possibly something like Brolancer 2 would be pretty quick and fun to do, I think. Maybe possibly Xenosaga 2 would actually be a hilarious one to run. As I mentioned before, it's hard for me to do some speedruns because I'm just so used to playing the game I like to play games at 100% and get everything, but so it's, you know, difficult for me to switch to a speedrun perspective where you're supposed to skip chests, you're supposed to run from battles, you're not supposed to pick up characters and do all this stuff. But then there are a few things that actually would be fun to do, I think. This is worth a lot of experience. I don't need the item, but I think that I really want to get the experience for it. He's normally very tough, but Illumina and Paladin Shield once again give you a very high evasion stat, so he can do a lot of damage even through my armor, but luckily... Yeah, pretty nice. I might... crap, that was actually one first. There we go. So the floating continent is a dangerous place. If you're playing this game on a normal speedrun, this is a pretty horrible place, and even if you're playing casually, this can be very dangerous. It's one of the places in the game where, you know, even guides tell you don't try and fight every battle, run away a whole lot or else you're gonna be in trouble. But again, I can, because of Ultima, I can get away with grinding in this very, very good place to grind. The thing to be really scary of in a normal speedrun is ninjas, which you can't run away from, so you have to have more rods on hand to blow them up. I didn't buy as many rods as I could have, of course, because of the fact that with Ultima I don't need it as much. And here we are, ninjas that you can't run away from, even if you want to. All because that they are a boss, and a optional mini boss that you can encounter in the cave in the sealed cave. They don't want you to run away from them, so they have the boss trigger that prevents you from running away. There's an Ultima for Terra, I believe. There are some other interesting things about the floating continent here that I'll point out when we get there near the end. Well, otherwise, I'm not sure what else I have to talk about, because I've already gone on and on about the Illumina and the Ultima shield up to this, the Paladin shield up to this point. Now that you see that I have the Paladin shield, I mean, what else is there to talk about? There's not too much interesting here. Otherwise, there's a point where you can jump off. Having Shadow is interesting, but I did that. Okay, I think I'm going to start running away from all the rest of the non-ninja fights now. I think I've got enough magic points, so I can save a little bit of time. As you can see, Quexel's damage with Ultima is starting to go up on multiple figures because he's doing, because he's higher level. He's gained quite a few. How about a Sin Shield? 24 is a very good level to be at, actually. Maybe I'll fight one more, get her to 25. That's a good level, I think, to start the next thing at. I have to, anyway. Ninjas, wow. The last time I ran this, actually, I didn't get any ninja encounters. All of my fights were intentional, but this time I'm getting all the ninja fights. Now, the hardest thing that's actually that I'm finding I have to do for speedrunning, figure out, is when to do menuing. There are actually lots of points, since I'm using a slow spell like Ultima, I should take advantage of doing the menuing, but it's just something I don't do much of. Oh, I can run away now, too, if I want to. See, there's the stunner that was equipped on Shadow. But I can move items out of the way once each battle at the very least. Although, as I say, now I can actually stop fighting non-ninja battles, which I'm going to. So, let's use up smoke bombs. Things will get really interesting when I get to the World of Ruin because of the special way I've mapped everything out. Forgot that. There's another choke. If you're keeping a choke counter at home. More ninjas. Goodness. Yeah, I'm a totally different seed than I last did. All of this is generated by RNG seeds, and if you, especially if you're doing segmented, you can really take advantage of the fact that you're turning the thing off because you can map out RNG seeds and resetting a regular game console. I'm not sure how resetting works on an emulated copy anyway, so it's one of the reasons why I'm not bothering to do any manipulation, because I'm not sure that it would do any good. Okay, smooth bomb, last one. Now, do we want to go? It's actually on default no, which is something I sometimes forget. Okay, and here's the fight. Time to get rid of the XP eggs. I'm not going to get any more experience in this portion of the game, so let's go and go with the economizer. And give you economizer as well, because I think we picked up Ultima. Let's see. And do that. I don't know what else we can learn. Things for, but let's get some troops through. Atma is normally Atma weapon is normally a very, very scary boss, but of course with with the swords and armor and everything I have, and of course with Ultima, he's not nearly so scary. And no, I don't have to do that, but I can cast Phantom. I'm not sure I really want to cast Phantom, but oh well. Forgot they gave that not a powerful attack esper. Doesn't matter. He'll probably go down to 3 Ultimas, I believe, anyway, so this works out fine. Senshi should be able to get her last few magic points on the way out, because magic points are actually the only thing that the naughties give. Now we're in a very lengthy cutscene involving Senshi, Celes. The interesting thing about this, of course, is that if 10 magic points there, plus an elixir, very valuable. If Celes isn't in your party when you get on the floating continent, she actually comes here. And so that's semi-useful if you want to take advantage of it. The main reason, of course, they only let you take 3 party members. They never give a good in-game reason why. But it's so that you can pick up Shadow and carry him around with. But of course, it isn't really necessary. He'll appear here regardless. So even if you're wanting to do 100% and therefore you need to save Shadow, you can still just... you know, you can ignore him just as we've done and still pick him up. But they want Celes involved in this little scene where once again the Empire tries to appeal, Emperor and Kefka try to appeal to her sentiments as a Imperial general and make her kill her friends. And then you can rule at their side. Come to the dark side. Strike down your friends and we can rule the galaxy together as madmen and... hot general lady, I don't know. But it's a very Star Wars-esque thing, isn't it? But of course by now we know where Celes' heart lies, and she's not going to do it, of course. The fact that she even looks like she's thinking about it is kind of absurd. And she does the right thing and instead stabs Kefka. Nice little stab sword effect there. And Kefka's reaction... ouch! As if he pricked his finger. Yeah. Blood! You're a vicious brat!
Arg! Hate you!
As Taylor Swift says, haters gonna hate. I already used that one, but it is a line he uses a whole lot long before Taylor Swift did. I actually want to make a music video to that, just have little snippets of certain songs and have Final Fantasy characters reacting to it. I think that'd be hilarious. Having those dialogue for Kefka appearing while Taylor Swift is singing Haters Gonna Hate. That'd just be funny. Okay, enough making you gag by talking about Taylor Swift. Now we get to another comedy routine. Gestal's Kefka is gone so nuts from being stabbed with a little sword that he's decided he's going to appeal to the statues. which instead of therefore draining their power, which is what Gestal wants to do, he's going to cause them to... they're set up in a position to neutralize each other, these weird gods of magic in their statue form. They're set up to counteract each other, but messing with them may cause their delicate balance to be upset and possibly doom the world. And Kefka's gone crazy after being stabbed, and he decides he wants to appeal to their power and make them go berserk. He's also standing in the field, so no matter what kind of nasty spells Gestal uses, including Murton, which is actually a suicide spell, so he shouldn't be using that, Kefka isn't going to be harmed. And so he really begins to appeal to the statues now to show their power. Time you show this old man your true power! Don't do something stupid! Boom! Now, Kefka's gonna coach them on as spotter. You're way off! Where are you aiming? Whoa! More to the left! Oh, more to the right. His right. Yeah, my left. That's actually, a little subtle thing, but very well done by them. Dead on. So there's the end of Gestal. And now, like Darth Vader, after booting his former liege. What a worthless excuse for an emperor. It looked like he was bouncing around far outside the field there, but luckily in battle position, doesn't matter for map position. Now he's going to throw him off the edge, just like Vader. And once again, Star Wars going on here. Respect what I was saying before I started getting really into the dialogue here. Celes has to show up for the scene, so if you don't have her in the party, she'll actually just show up at this point. And she'll join your party as you're making your run out, so you'll actually have a full party of 4 to deal with the naughties if that's what you want to do. Yeah, don't they have the best name? And yeah, Kefka's just moving the statues around because he's gone crazy, even though this is going to cause the end of the world, so we're all in big trouble now. Who are you? Shadow to the rescue! First, he gets Celes to safety, and now does the one truly heroic thing ever that doesn't involve his dog. He's gonna try and sacrifice himself to keep Kefka at bay. Although he need not sacrifice himself if you're nice enough to wait for him. Which, of course, I am going to do. So now coming up, we're gonna have a bunch of battles with naughties. And some of these battles are random, but I have actually, while I was doing some of this rooting, before I tried to give the Moogle Charm to Shadow, when I was first trying this Kappa % stuff out and starting my planning and everything, I actually did recruit Mog and gave him a Moogle Charm, and so I had him in the party, but I still ended up fighting naughties. Some of these naughties are, encounter squares that automatically do encounters. They aren't random battles. But I'm not super concerned about the battles anyway, because, especially since I'm doing 100%. I have to wait for Shadow anyway, so this is going to be a very long wait for all of us. So the battles I get into, are not necessarily bad. I might lose a little bit of time from screen transitions if I get into too many battles, but as you would know if you've been following me this long, I don't care about the really minor things like that too much. I haven't bothered to give a gem box to Tina yet because I didn't do any of them. That'll be later on. I'll giving gem boxes to all my casters. Luckily, this mute spell doesn't last more than, I think that was what's actually. This mute spell, another back attack. Yep, that's Ultima for her. Your best be frozen, doesn't really matter. Luckily, all my guys have fire, which is actually, that was one of the reasons I had them learning fire, just so they'd have it in case, but I really don't need to worry about that. Even frozen by that, she could still earn mana points, so being frozen doesn't mean very much, especially since they now have Ultima. Now, if I really... one of the things I also could do on 100% to make this a little bit speedier is actually to Now, I'd have to do some other clever stuff to come up with it, but actually, yes, I could take Terra and Locke and Strago, for instance. I could give Strago a Moogle Charm, and because I was running from those fights, that's a portion of the game I wouldn't want. Then I could actually skip most of the floating continent without worrying about, because these guys give a decent amount of magic points. So I could skip most of the floating continent battles until I get to here, and then Essentia joins automatically, and so then I could equip Essentia as normal and have Essentia just learn magic points from all these naughties before transitioning to the next world. And she wouldn't be as get as much experience to be as high a level, but that's not actually a concern. I'm much more concerned about experience still than I should be, and that's, you know, just some of the leftovers from my 100% mindset. You would think that with all my ultimate speed, I'd be able to get off an Ultima before cast the super long spell Condemned, but unfortunately that's not the case. I also went back for that elixir since I have to wait anyway. I figured why not. But so, because of my 100% completion, this is one of the ways in which I'm apparently not like a lot of gamers who like to discover things on their own and do stuff on their own, but but because of the fact that I want to get everything, I always like to play with using a reference like a strategy guide or whatever, so I always have strategy guides for whatever role-playing games I pick up so I can learn all the tricks I need to do and everything else. And I had a pretty interesting one for Final Fantasy 3, as it was at the time. But it had some interesting bits of advice that taught me a lot, but there's also a lot of things from there that I remarked that I found out about later, like the fact that he was one of the proponents of getting the Ragnarok Esper rather than the Ragnarok Sword so you could cast Illumina, but then I went and found that by getting the Paladin Shield you could learn Illumina, so that was a lot more useful. One of the interesting things is if you, in one of the ultimate examples of uselessness of the Colosseum, the way the Colosseum works is you fight a random battle. Your character attacks randomly. You don't get to control them using whatever abilities you give them, and you put up an item for a wager, and then you get another item offered in return, and whatever you put up you lose, unless you do a battle that gives you the same thing. And then you, if you win, you get the item that was offered. So it's one of those things where you save before you try it every time so you don't end up losing stuff. But some of the things they give aren't actually better. If you take, for instance, that cursed shield that turns into the Paladin Shield and you offer it up, they instead give you a cursed ring in return. And the cursed ring operates like the hero ring, except that if you fight with it for 256 battles, it turns into a hero ring. Which is a nice relic, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of them, but that's a really crappy reward compared to the Paladin Shield. The only one of it in the game that you'd normally have. I mean, I love the Paladin Shield. I love the Paladin Shield, I love the Illumina, that's why I have something. Thank you for indulging my weird fetishes and tastes and all that. Finally, we're coming down to the wire so I can stop talking about nonsense. So, we're going to start the next portion and do the fishing, which is probably going to be very bad because I usually have bad luck with fishing. I could, I guess, kill Sid off. It's something that I never do well. I'm too nice of a guy. I don't like people to die unless they're genuinely evil, like Kefka. I'm kind of weird that way. Kefka could die in the most painful, horrible way possible, and I would love it. But if it's an innocent like Sid, a guy who's generally, not a bad guy or whatever, I'm very sad about them dying. I'm sad about Shadow dying, if you leave him to die. I'm a frickin' bleeding heart, ultra nice guy, pathetic person. Merchants and soldiers. The world's going to hell now. Oh, that poor Kappa in this game. Where is the sailor in these mountains? Who knows? The airship just busts to pieces. There's Setsu and Terra holding on to their life. I If it comes to Terra relationships, I actually ship Setzer Terra. I don't know why, but just that scene right there where Setzer's holding on to Terra for dear life, and then, you know, and Setzer riding the airship is the one who saves Terra at the end of the game. Sorry, spoilers. You know, it's just, you know, I kind of like the idea of those two eventually hooking up. Terra finds what love is with Setzer. He didn't get Maria, you know, / Celes, so why not? He deserves Terra. Though, the only real romance in this game is Locke and Celes. I'm sure that some people want to get after, you know, Locke also defends Terra so much. We're like, yeah, get rid of that Celes. I want to ship Locke Terra. I don't know. It's just a thing. I'm sure there are fanfics out there if I want to look for them. Anyway, on that day, the world changed forever. Kefka is actually one of the most successful bad guys in a lot of these RPGs because he managed to get his godlike power, and he's wiped out a lot of people. If you want to be snarky and trollish, and that way you can say, well, maybe a couple people in Mobliz, but that's it, you know. The Doma people just disappeared, but seriously, he poisoned them all to death. If you get into the actual storyline, he's killed all people in Mobliz. Narsh was completely wiped out, except for a few survivors. You never see people like Bannon or Arvis again, interestingly, so you really wonder what happened to them. So now Celes has wakes up almost alone on this solitary island. There's only one other person here, who is poor little Sid in his yellow slicker. He's been taking care of her for the past year and is grievously ill himself, and there's nothing to eat around here but fish, which luckily mysteriously respawn. Apparently raw fish isn't... these things as raw fish are healthy or something, because they help him recover real well, even though a Cure 2 doesn't do anything. Or Cure or whatever. I don't think I actually have Cure 2 because of this speedrun, but or whatever. Blink, 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 blink. Oh, you're up! Very, very slow portion no matter what you do. I just have to pray that I get a really fast fish feast. Now normally, once again, you'd probably save and reset at this point a couple of times if you know anything about seed manipulation to try and get a good seed with the fish, because it would save a lot of time. But again, I don't know much of that, and I don't know how it would work with an emulator, because some of the things require battery, cartridge, battery, memory, which of course doesn't exist in emulator, so I'm not sure what it's replaced with or how it gets reset and everything. So Sentia decides to call Sid Granddad, since they seem to be the only two left alive, and she's going to do her best to take care of him. Puexel, my hero, of course, as you may have heard me say before, and which you may have noticed from the fact that Locke is called Puexel, since I named him in honor of the guy who really got me into speed running. I first of all need some sprint shoes. I'm going to go ahead and equip the Charm Bangle, because I don't want to fight any fights. Get all this ready. I am level 25, which is good. He thinks that the scene where... Crap, I don't think that's a good one. Where Celes despairs over the loss of Sid and throws herself off the cliff is very touching. It's poignant, has great music. This right here, of course, has no music. And it's handled a lot better than saving him, because if we do manage to save him and then come back here to talk to him later, bring our friends to see him, as he says, it actually doesn't do anything. He doesn't have any new dialogue or anything. Plus, as you may have noticed if you watched my alternate ending... Yeah, really crappy here. If you watched my alternate ending video where I won without Locke in the party, among others, instead of... Since Locke isn't there to do her scene with Celes, Setzer has to save her, you know, and wondering why her life was hanging by a bandana, and she says, this bandana is my good luck charm. After it, my whole life changed. But that doesn't make any sense if you let Sid live, because she never finds the bandana, actually. And so even, you know, when you do it normally, Locke just calls it a trinket. I don't know if that's a good one or not. The one on it's on the far left, and that one I'm not sure if it spawned left enough to be a good one. There are two good ones, the fast one and then the one guy there. The other two are bad. They have a certain value. Jeez, you can get trolled so badly on this. They each have a certain value that increases Sid's hit points, which go down every second. So if you just sit around, he eventually will die. But even on bad RNG, it's generally quicker to save him because the cutscene is so long. But you can still be stuck here a very, very long time. That one is sort of good. That one's far enough left, I'm sure of that. So, but it's not really enough to progress me too much. So I haven't had too bad of luck compared to what I usually do. This is actually really, really good luck compared to what I usually get. Crap. And I just had to say it, didn't I? Anyway, if you're... when you find out that that bandana that she has, it's supposed to be, you find out it's supposed to be the bandana that she found. But again, you know, you don't see it if you make Sid live. She doesn't find it, because what happens if you... Such bad RNG. Now it's turning into a normal run. If you fail to save Sid, jeez, 3 of them, and they're all the worst ones. Then Celes is left alone and on the solitary island, and she despairs and decides that there's nothing to do but to throw herself from the cliffs. And it's a very poignant scene and very sad and Bible thump and great music. And then she throws herself and somehow survives this fall from the cliff. And there's a seagull with her, and she berates the seagull for saving her life. I'm sure that the seagull took CPR classes, must be this seagull. And then she notices that this seagull has a bandana around its foot or something. It's tangled up in a bandana. And she identifies it as Locke's bandana, and somehow takes this as a sign that Locke is alive. Well, whatever. She has a reason to live, and that's important. So then, it's all very absurd when you think about it. Then she goes back into the hut and finds that Sid wasn't quite dead yet. He had just enough strength left to get up and write a note saying that he was working on a project and just completed it before he died, and he left it downstairs in a secret room. That's the great line that seems out of place. And she should go use it to go find her friends, and encourages her. And so she uses this in her resolve and everything, and she's going to go find everyone. And as she says later, this was the point where her whole life changed. We might end... No, we're not going to get now because I'm way too far in. I'm actually only about 1 or 2 more fast fish away if I can just get them. Oh, this. Finally. Jeez, if I'll stop wasting time by wandering around. There we go. Finally. So that wasn't too bad. Not for me. Project that got me going the past year is down below. Go take a look at it. Yay, secret passages and projects, and oh, it's a raft. Very simple looking raft, but you must leave this place. You have to find your friends. I'll bring them all back to meet you. That Plexo fellow too, no doubt. Kind of interesting how it turns. There's some very interesting things you can do with this game with using things like the sketch glitch or the floating island glitch to sequence break. If you use the sketch glitch, one of the tricks that is part of the sketch glitch route involves skipping the floating continent and putting yourself on... by doing a specific kind of sketching with the sketch glitch, you can give your party every status effect in the game. From zombie to dead to having Magitech armor and being sucked up by the Zone Eater. And once the entire party is afflicted by the status of being sucked up by the Zone Eater, you appear in Gogo's Cave, which we'll be seeing down the line here. So it means that once you're in Gogo's Cave, when you leave Gogo's Cave, you wind up in the world of Ruin, which you're not supposed to be at. I'm out of smoke bombs, and I'll use warp stones. This will be the last time I'm going to be running away, now that I've got Senshi alone. So I should have more than enough warp stones, even with my terrible luck. MV luck is nothing compared to what I got. It's a very, very, very long trip, but you can save a lot of time and a lot of battles with this. Yay, Chocobo stable. So anyway, you can do that to skip the actual loss of the airship and everything else. You just have the airship becomes the World of Ruin airship. You have to do it in a position. It stays on the exact same map where it is in the World of Balance, but it changes into the World of Ruin airship. So you have to make sure that you do it in an island where it's Zone Eater's Island is near, because you'll pop up there. Luckily, you know, that's the island in the far northeast there, the little triangular shaped one you can see at the top of the map. But luckily, there's a map there in the World of Balance that has an invisible monster on it that you need to sketch for the sketch glitch called the Intanger. And so it works out that you can have the airship right on hand, and then you can immediately head to Kefka's Tower with 10 of your party members. But if you do trigger some of the other things that haven't triggered yet, you'll actually end up... you can get on the raft, for instance, and ride it, and then you're far separated from the airship, which is stuck on the solitary island. Oh, please. I hate in IKEA because the NPCs control you so badly, getting in the way. There's probably a way to manipulate how they walk to keep them from doing that, but again, I don't know. There's some RNG manipulation that I've learned how to do, like the auction house you saw earlier, like using Sabin as the party leader in the minecart ride so that you get certain enemies instead, but yeah, now even Edgar's getting trolled by them. Jared, that's funny. If you rearrange the letters in that name, it spells Edgar. Doesn't work as well when you've renamed him somebody else, but this is an example of the palette swap. One of the other minor things you can do with the sketch glitch is to cause palette swaps. And if you do that to your characters, Edgar's palette swap is, of course, this. If you have Merchant Locke, he turns into a Doma soldier. They actually have the same sprite with a palette swap. Setzer interestingly gets his everything changed into Edgar's colors, because it seems to be that Edgar's palette swap is the same as Setzer's colors. They're very similar. They use them slightly differently, but they you know, with this kind of pixelated sprite format, you use codes to determine the color of certain segments to easily change colors around and stuff in the coding, and they use the same palette trees for, I guess, for Edgar and Setzer to get this Jared color code. Now I need to remember to talk to him in the inn. Which is quicker? I'm not actually really sure. It's one of the things I haven't bothered to code too much. I'm lucky if I can remember to come and see him at all, actually. I often head to the cave without talking to him here, and then I forget to get him, and then I have to come all the way back because the turtle isn't in position and nobody's there, and so I waste a lot of time. So remembering to do this is actually a really big success on my part. Yeah, it's probably quicker to come into the cafe. I need to remember that next time. One of the interesting things about this, of course, is that, once again, you know, there's a lot of information you can learn in a casual game by talking to NPCs. And those wonderful little kids in the rich man's house who have the wonderful nursery rhymes actually have a new one called Jump on the Turtle. Oh, jump on the turtle. So they're actually teaching you about that now, too. So that's pretty funny. Siegfried is one of the interesting little things in this game that seems to have not been completed. He appears here, and the first time you have the potential to meet him is in the Phantom Train. if you investigate and try to get all the chests, there's one chest that Siegfried appears and says that he's going to, that it belongs to him, and he fights you. But he's a bit of a blowhard, actually, and he scurries away after taking a little bit of damage. Once it was a dangerous fight for me for some reason. I was a little under-leveled, but otherwise it's not difficult. You don't get any reward for it. If you're paying attention to Ultros' dialogue in the Esper Mountain Cave, when you fight him the third time, and he says that he wants to get the statues as a present for Siegfried. And now suddenly Siegfried appears here. He says it's dangerous, let him take care of the monsters, which is a bit of a joke. Hop on the turtle, oh, hop on the turtle. You know, just like the kids told us. And then he appears in the Colosseum as he says that there's a guy who's been impersonating him. And you can also fight, he's one of the enemies you can fight in the Colosseum by offering up stuff, and he's actually pretty powerful. It's kind of weird, so it really feels like he's supposed to be a Gilgamesh-like enemy from Final Fantasy V, but just it's an incomplete storyline, so you don't get the, you just never find out who he is or what he's about. It's rather disappointing because he's kind of an amusing character in those scenes he appears in. But of course, once again, it doesn't matter in a speedrun because you only see him this once. It's the only time you'll see him in a speedrun. Everybody's in shock. It was awful, they all say, pretty much. There are a few items in here, but they're not really necessary, especially even in a normal speedrun. I rarely see anybody pick any up, and I really don't need them because, of course, I have ultimate equipment. But now that we're in the second half of the game, we'll actually start collecting the ultimate equipment if you're bothering to do any of that. Now, there's a trick here. I want the economizer so I don't cost an arm and a leg casting Ultima, and I want Marvel Shoes because they cast auto haste on the party, or on the wearer, I should say. Now, this is important, as you know if you played other speedruns. I actually could have made this, well, it doesn't really matter since I'm going to cheese my way through this, but these vines can be very nasty, especially if you don't pick up Sabin, because I totally skipped Sabin for a couple of reasons. I don't think that he learned Naked. Whoops, that was wrong. I should use Flash. Anyway, these things have a... if you only have two characters, these things can be nasty because they will, first of all, cast slow on a character, and then they will seize them. But they can only seize characters that are slowed. So if you have running shoes or Marvel shoes on to give you auto haste, they won't be able to seize you because they can't slow you down. If you have that on, you're just immune to slow in addition to having haste. So running shoes in a normal speed run as well as in casual play are a really, really good relic. They're good to use for a lot of reasons because they have haste and you can't get rid of the haste from that in battle with the spell or anything else. So that's always good to have. Even though they said all the treasure's gone, there's actually the Soul Saber and the middle thing there. It's useful in a casual run, especially for throwing, but I don't really need it that much. I'm going to give Sid Charm Bangle and Sprint Shoes for now. Because I have a little bit more I have to go where I have to be running away from things. I could fight a few more battles and get Sid Ultima, but I'll actually be getting Ultima from a grind session in the future anyway, the last time I'm gonna grind. And it's pointless to be fighting at this point, I think. So now for the next little bit, I'm actually going to be treating this like a more or less normal speedrun. I'll be running away from everything in Daryl's tomb as well, unless I need to get some money to avoid the money number pearl. And I might get a fight to, well, actually after I land I'll be getting up to a good enough level. Okay, I think it's what's my money at? 4? That's actually fine. So yeah, I won't have to do any fighting at all. These things are definitely not worth fighting. Now, the next stage, these are the 3 characters that you absolutely have to get. Sabin you're supposed to have by now, but you can skip him like we did. The reason I did is because I hate fighting monsters in his house. I want to run it when I don't have to worry about monsters, and also he'll be higher level if I wait. I'm going to get everybody up so the entire party will be around level 34-ish. And 34 is probably high enough. Well, it's more than high enough, but also I'll be immune to most of the nasty abilities like level doom. But, so anyway, after I get up the airship, I'll be going to do the normal grind fight, and then I'll be able to start collecting party members, and they'll all be around the same easy enough level. I think I'll go to 36, so I can skip level 35, so everybody else will... Because if somebody comes 1 level higher, they'll be 35 if I go to 34. Maybe I'll just go to like 33. 33, okay, like that. Maybe 36. 36. I'm fighting myself. I still haven't figured out exactly what's best. But I'm trying to... Oops. That Narch guy is still interested in that. That was a mistake on my part again.